You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
It's time for another episode of The Breakdown here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Matt Hamilton. That's Matt Cassel. And we got a good one for you today. The Chiefs coming off their bye week. A lot of stuff has happened over the past 7 days. Matt, we got a trade. We talked about the possibility of it last week. We got one. The Chiefs making a deal with the Giants for Kadarius Toney. It was an aggressive move. I mean, as we discussed last week, it seems like the receiving core was starting to come into its own. These guys like Juju and MVS and Hardman were really stepping up. They had a huge day against the Niners, yet the Chiefs still felt the need to add Kadarius Toney, a guy who I studied a lot coming out of the draft. I did some breakdowns with Nate Burleson on him on Good Morning Football. He's one of these running back receiver hybrid type of guys. Florida used him all over the place. He's really versatile, really explosive, really shifty. What do you think that dynamic adds to the Chiefs offense? Why do you think they got so aggressive and wanted to make a move like this?
Well, you just nailed it. I mean, his versatility, right? And when you look at this Chiefs offense and what they ask some of these wide receivers to do with the speed sweeps, right? The jet sweeps, the shovel passes, and also the explosive nature in which he's just another weapon. He's big, he's physical, he's good with the ball in his hands. So if he's a guy that can get caught up to speed within the system, then it might not be right away. It might be a small sample size early on, but as he develops, as he grows and builds chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, he's just another weapon for this team to utilize down the stretch. And also you have to take into account it's a really long season, right? And sometimes you get injuries at that position, but they'll have enough guys now in terms of depth in order to go out and be able to fulfill that role if need be. So hopefully Toney is a good addition to this team. But you said you studied him. What did you think of him coming out and everything like that?
I thought he was a phenomenal player. I was really high on him coming out. The biggest knock on him was some off the field stuff that was a little bit concerning. We've seen the Chiefs take chances on guys like this before, and it's mostly worked in their favor. And Toney's a guy that really does have special. He was a first round pick for a reason. And hopefully they can get that out of him. Injuries have been the big story of his career so far in New York. He had a hard time staying on the field. But when he's been out there, he's been really impactful. So I think this is going to be interesting.
It'll be very interesting just to see how he develops a role in this offense, and if he does develop a role, because as you said, the chemistry, especially when you watch that game last week against the 49ers, is starting to truly develop, and there's a cohesiveness amongst that group right now.
Yeah, and it does seem, you're right, like Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, they love just having a stable of weapons, as many guys as they can throw at you as possible. We've seen it in the running back room as well. They use all of those backs. They use them all to their strengths, use them all in different ways. So adding another guy like Toney, another versatile piece in there, it's just now one more thing you have to worry about with the Chiefs offense. The deep receiving room, the tight ends too. They use all three of those tight ends in all different ways. So they can throw so many different looks at you. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Toney line up in the backfield as well. I think they're going to have a lot of fun. Andy Reid loves to get creative. I think they're going to have a lot of fun using Kadarius Toney.
I agree. It'll be fun to see because, like you said, they do such a phenomenal job of utilizing guys' skill sets and playing to their strengths. And this is just another weapon that they have at their disposal to go out and attack defenses in a different way or create a mismatch. And this league, as you well know, it comes down to mismatches. And anytime you can do that, I mean, it works in your favor in the offense. And there's nobody that does it better than Andy Reid.
Absolutely. And it's another huge matchup this weekend for the Chiefs, taking on the Titans, Sunday Night Football. The Titans have been rolling really quietly. We'll get into that matchup in a little bit. But first, let's start digging into some of the tape. Matt, with the Chiefs being off last Sunday, we're going to hit a few of the best moments we've seen from this offense this season and kind of talk about what we want to see from the Chiefs in the second half of the season, where we think they might need to grow a little bit, what they need to stick with, what we need to see more of going forward. So let's bring up our first play here. You guys, of course, will remember this one. Matt, walk us through what you saw in this play, what you liked about this one.
Right. This one's a 3-by-1 formation, and you've got your old school 2 Tampa look. Now, the only difference here is what you're going to see is this weak side safety at the bottom. He's going to be very conscious of the number 3 going vertically here. So you'll see him push up, and then what they're going to do down low, that corner is going to lock McCole Hardman on that in cut down low. And so as he snaps the ball, he's got a decision to make, because too high, you can really work to that in cut to create that high low with the back and see what happens there. Or you can work up top to this under and that corner route, as you'll see by number 2 up top. So as the play starts to go, you can see Patrick Mahomes' eyes come to this in cut. Now, he gets off it a little bit. I think that his vision's a little disturbed right there by the defensive line, but now he comes out to the right-hand side. He's looking, but the corner and that cloud corner starts to get depth and width, so he takes it away. And then Patrick Mahomes, being Patrick Mahomes, has eyes in the back of his head, comes all the way back across the field to Juju, who just stays alive on the route and finds him, gives the little defensive end a little something to stop his feet, delivers the ball to Juju, and basically Juju does the rest. He breaks 3 tackles, takes it to the house, and that's exactly what you want to see as a quarterback. I'll tell you what, anytime you can throw an under route at 5 yards and go for 40, and he breaks 3 tackles, that's always a positive on the stat sheet, but also you love seeing it. It's great.
And I think this was a huge moment for this offense. Even though the Chiefs lost this game, this was a play. I think you talked about the chemistry that Mahomes has developed with these receivers. I think this was the play where I think Juju gained a little confidence from this moment. And I think Mahomes gained some confidence in Juju as well. Seeing, as you said, when you can throw a crosser like that, a short crossing route like that, and have your guy break it for a touchdown, that just gives you such a boost of confidence in his ability to go out there and make plays for you. And we saw it carry over the next week into that Niners game as well. So I think, even in a loss to the Bills in a big game, there were still positives to take out of that. And I think we're going to see this connection between Mahomes and Juju really continue to grow and click going forward.
Right. You bring a guy in like Juju and you expect him to make plays. And that's the biggest part, is when you get the ball into your playmaker's hands, can they extend the play? Can they break a tackle and turn a 5-yard gain into a 45-yard touchdown pass? And that's confidence for everybody. It's not just confidence for Patrick Mahomes, but the entire offensive unit. When you can put the ball in some guy's hands like Juju Smith-Schuster and he step up, make a play, and be a difference maker.
Absolutely. And now let's move on to our second play here today. You guys will definitely remember this from last week against the Niners. Huge moment in this game, huge play in this game as we're inching closer to halftime. And this is still very much a game at this point before the Chiefs really pulled away. Matt, what stood out to you here?
Yeah, I just loved it because it's really truly a progression read. Down low, you're going to have a quick out and a corner route. So you're going to try to high low that clouded corner. And this is what we call a mixed coverage, right? You've got a clouded corner down here, so it's playing more like 2, but up top, because of the cut split, it turns more into like a quarters or a cover 4 look up top. So that's how it's playing. So really, Patrick is starting left to right here. And as you see it start to progress, he's evaluating what's going on down here at the bottom. So the corner originally stays tight to that quick out route. So he might have a throw here to Travis Kelce on the corner that's going to get flattened out in front of that safety. But as you can see, the eyes of the corner are on Patrick, and he can give depth pretty quickly. So you have to take that into consideration. But what does Patrick do? He looks at it, he evaluates it, doesn't feel very confident about that window right there because it's going to close quickly. So he moves on with his progression. And this is where you see MVS and his speed, right? We talk about people being able to blow the top off of coverage. Well, he threatens this safety right away, gets him turned around, comes in that window, and Patrick doesn't hesitate at all. I love it. He goes 1, 2, gets to the middle read here to MVS, and then the way in which he delivers this ball, he takes the arc out of it. The trajectory of the ball is outstanding because he doesn't give that safety time to come back and get involved in the play. So when he takes the air out of the ball, he's able to put it on the wide receiver to make sure that he secures the catch. It's just a great throw, great understanding for the offense, and a really good job of going through his progression.
And I really wanted to include this one because, a lot of people, when you think about Mahomes at his best, you think about the freelancing, you think about all those really memorable highlights that he gives us that are so crazy that no one else can do. But to me, we know he can do all those things. The thing that I want to see from him consistently and where he's truly at his best to me is where we see things like we saw here. Like you said, how quickly he gets through his progressions, how decisive and confident he is getting to that next read to Valdez-Scantling, and then the ball placement just being absolutely perfect. That quick processing, the decisiveness, the stuff that's within the framework of the offense that sometimes, he can get away from. He can start freelancing a little bit too much at times. And that's what's gotten this offense into some issues, especially when you go back to last year when the offense had a little bit of a lull. I think that was a concern. So I think it's, making those plays within the framework of the offense. That's what I want to see carrying. He did it so well in this game against the Niners heading into the bye week. I really want to see that carry over to the second half of the season.
Right. I mean, the more that you can work within the framework, if it's there, right, and be diligent about your reads and go through, because the one thing that is so unique and special about him is he can do it in so many different ways. And those big plays, a lot of time will come with him extending a play outside the pocket and finding a secondary receiver, just like we saw in the first play just moments ago. But this is just a thing of beauty and what you expect out of a quarterback like him. And that's what makes him elite. The more that he can do this and the more that you can get through your progression, has a good pocket right there, stands confident in the pocket, goes through his progression, delivers the ball. I mean, those are the things that is going to make this offense so difficult to defend.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I need to tell you about one of today's sponsors, and that is Liquid Death. Listen, you might be in a meeting, and you might be walking through Hy-Vee, Target, and start to notice some strange tall boys of beer in the bottled water section of your local stores. No need to get anybody. It's not beer. It's actually mountain spring water from the Alps, and it's called Liquid Death. Now, why is this water called Liquid Death? Well, it'll brutally murder your thirst. That is right. Not only are they trying to brutally murder your thirst, they're trying to brutally murder plastic pollution as well with their infinitely recyclable tallboy cans. They're bringing death to plastic pollution, and they also donate 10% of their profits from every can sold to kill plastic pollution. Great cause. That's a win-win for me. Look at this. I mean, just look at this can right here. I've got one right with me. The Severed Lime, one of my favorite flavors that they have. Oh, it's so good. Can't wait to dive into this one. You can find a Liquid Death at your local Target, Walmart, or 7-Eleven, or go to a Liquid Death retailer near you. Find one with their store locator tool at liquiddeath.com/KCSN.
Yeah, and this is what creates the sustainable offense, right? Like we know those big plays are going to come when he has to freelance, but these are the things you need to do consistently to sustain the offense at its greatest, at its highest level. And this is what the Chiefs, we saw in this game, what the Chiefs offense is capable of when everything's really clicking. And now for our last play, one of the best plays that we saw this year, that Thursday night football game against the Chargers, all the way back in week 2. Matt, walk us through this one again.
Right. It's playing a lot like almost like a cover zero look, right? You've got two backers mugged up in your B and C gap up top. You've got 3 defensive linemen down low. So it's a 4 down front, but we used to refer to it as double mug, right? But the double mug usually happens in the A gaps. This one, they're just giving them a different look. However, it's a condensed formation. So they're definitely giving help to those offensive tackles, because we've got Joey Bosa, we've got Khalil Mack. So they're paying attention to that because, there's so many different ways in which you can kind of slow down those elite pass rushers. But in this formation, you're going to get chip help down at the bottom. And then the way in which Travis Kelce releases right here, I love that, because he comes in front of Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa doesn't know if he's going to crack him, if he's going to chip him, but all he's doing is impeding his path to the quarterback just to give him something else to think about, which slows down that rush. And then you've got mirrored routes on the outside with the out and ups. You got Travis going down and occupying 2 players in that sense, because the safety right there looks like he's doubling Travis Kelce. The offensive line and the running back do a tremendous job with their pickup in this situation. And then at the end of the day, you have Christian Watson goes and turns around J.C. Jackson on the out and up, and it's just an outstanding route. He steps on his toes, gets him turned around, and then and then Patrick Mahomes does the rest. He steps up in the pocket of protection. He does a really good job with his pocket movement and pocket awareness, and then delivers the strike. And this is, again, one of those throws that there's very few guys in the world that can make this throw, but the way in which he does it, a little bit off balance, stepping up and delivering it with perfect accuracy down the field for a touchdown. It was an incredible play. One of my favorite of the season.
Yeah, I think this might be my favorite play that we've seen from any team this entire season. When you talk about the creativity with the protection, I feel like that's not something we really ever say. Like, a team got creative with their pass protection, but the Chiefs really did here with those inside releases from Kelsey and Juju, really helping those tackles with two elite pass rushers on either side. And then you see the depth of the Chiefs receiving core with Justin Watson stepping in to make this play. And then just Mahomes being Mahomes and being special. And the great job by McKinnon in there as well. It's just from top to bottom, all 11 guys just doing such an incredible job in this play. The coaching staff doing an incredible job drawing it up. I mean, it really is. It was a perfect play across the board. And that's why this one just always stuck out to me so much. And I think when we look back at this season and in the NFL overall, I think this is going to be a play that, at least to me, will be one of the plays that define this season.
It's a highlight reel. There's no doubt. And like you said, I think you hit it right on the head when you said it takes all 11 guys, from a pass protection standpoint to the running back stepping up, taking on that one blitzing linebacker, to the routes on the outside, to everybody doing their job successfully in unison. And then Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes and capping it off with a perfect throw down the field to Justin Watson, who I think I called Christian Watson before. So I apologize to him, because he's definitely deserves to be called by his actual name.
And it really is. I think that's one of the things that's defined this Chiefs team this year compared to even last year. So much was made of the Tyreek Hill loss in the offseason. But I think you've really seen this team come together and these guys just really doing their jobs. And everybody has a role to play. As we said in the open, all the different guys that rotate in personnel-wise in the receiving core, with the tight ends, with the running backs. It just seems like everybody's embraced their role and is willing to do the dirty work when they have to, and is ready to step up when their name is called and it's time to make a big play. So, that's the mark of a great team, Matt.
It is. It really is. And like you said, they're so multiple with their not only formations, but their personnel groups. And on any given day or on any given Sunday, there's different guys stepping up, making big plays. And you've seen it throughout the season. That's what's been exciting to watch this offensive unit and this team play this year, is how everybody does define their own role by how they go out, and each Sunday it could be Justin Watson's day, it could be MVS's day, it could be Juju Smith-Schuster, it could be one of the running backs, and that's what makes them so difficult to defend on a consistent basis, because really going into a game, you don't know who the focal point is. Obviously, you have Travis Kelce and you have these guys that you always have to be aware of, but any of these guys at any moment can get dialed up in a scheme play and be the guy that's primary. And that's the fun part to watch about this, because you have to expect the unexpected.
Absolutely. And that's what's going to make this team so tough the whole rest of the season. And even if they do get a little banged up, they have so many guys that can step in. But I want to shift our focus now to this weekend. Huge game against the Titans, who after a slow start have clawed their way back to 5-2. They get the win last week without Ryan Tannehill. Malik Willis making his first career start against the Texans. We didn't really see him have to do a whole lot. There's a lot of Derrick Henry, but the Titans get the win. We still don't know officially who's going to be in there at quarterback again this weekend. There's thought Ryan Tannehill, might be back, or they may give Willis another week. How does that affect things for the Chiefs if it's Willis at quarterback versus Tannehill this week?
Well, I think it really does affect the passing game for the Tennessee Titans if Malik Willis is in there. And you saw it last week. He was 10 for 6. And I know that they relied on Derrick Henry. He rushed for over 200 yards and had 32 rushes in this game. But Malik Willis is still raw, right? And he's still a guy that's developing in this league. It was his first start, and you hope that he continues to develop and get better with each and every start. But that's a big difference when you're talking about Ryan Tannehill, the experience that he has, the understanding and actual mastery of this offensive unit and what he's capable of in this pass game, and just overall his capacity to run this offense successfully, it would be definitely a step backwards. However, Malik Willis is somewhat of a wild card because he can extend plays with his legs, and also how much more zone read, boots, everything else that you might have to take into account when you're dealing with a guy that can run the ball, in which Malik Willis can. So he adds a different element that's more dangerous at times, but at the same time, overall, when you're talking about experience, like I said, you're hoping that Ryan Tannehill can get in the game and be there on Sunday for this team because he makes it a better offense.
I totally agree. And I think it was interesting with Malik Willis last week. As great of a coach as Vrabel is, and as wonderful a job as he's done with these Titans teams over the years, I don't necessarily love the way that he's handled Malik so far. Remember in the preseason when we saw some really nice flashes, some good plays from Malik as far as his freelancing ability. We saw Vrabel pull him out and bench him a couple of times because he took off rather than make the throw he thought he should make. We saw him, make some mistakes in a 2-minute drill. And I don't know. Those are teachable moments to me where I'd love to see him give Malik a chance to work those things out rather than threatening him with a benching, at the first sign of trouble. And what we saw last weekend, I saw a lot of fear in Malik Willis, especially after the early interception. It looked like he was afraid to make throws. It looked like he was afraid to get outside the pocket. I remember there was a play late in the first half. They still had a timeout left. It's a 2nd and 3. They're on the fringe of field goal range. He had a chance to scramble and take off for what could have been a 10, 15-yard gain. And who knows, with him, he could have broken it. And instead, he just launched the ball out of bounds. And I think that's where that type of stuff sets in. So what do you make of kind of how Vrabel's handled that whole situation?
Yeah, I didn't like it either early in preseason, because the reason you go out in preseason is to make those type of mistakes, to teach off the tape, to let a young guy go out, see what he has. He's obviously got a skill set, and you saw flashes of that. And I know that you're talking about, we just talked about it just a moment ago with Patrick Mahomes, is playing within the framework of the offense, getting him to become more comfortable. And that was something that they were diligent about. That was something that was stressed to him in preseason. But to pull him out of a game, what really that does is shakes the kid's confidence. And there's a reason why you drafted him in the first round. It was because of that skill set, early in the draft. It was because of that skill set, right? It was because he can extend plays. It's because he can take off and become a runner, and a dynamic runner at that. And so when you make somebody go in and you're so conscious in the back of your head about taking off and running because you want to do the right thing, or throwing the ball away instead of letting your instincts take over, I think it takes away from the growth of a player. And I also think it takes away from a player's skill set, that you might get more out of them if you let them learn on the job and make mistakes. Now, look, there's going to be those moments that you're like, hey, you can't turn the ball over, or you've got to be more protective of the football, and there's a guy wide open here. We want you to be better on your read. But those things, again, most of the time are hashed out in the film room, are hashed out on the practice field, because when the preparation's done, the hay's in the barn, you go out on Sunday, you got to be reactionary, and you got to let your skill set take over. And if you're thinking about all those other elements of trying to be perfect, then it just works against you and you play a lot slower.
Hey, sorry to interrupt again, but I've got to tell you about our sponsor, Trade Coffee. And going to a coffee shop is a great experience, but it's not something most of us can do every day. If you're looking for that delicious local coffee shop taste on a daily basis, it's so much easier to get that with Trade Coffee. Trade Coffee is a coffee subscription service that makes it so easy for you to discover new coffees and make your best cup of coffee at home every day. No fancy equipment needed. It's wonderful. Whether you know what you're doing and you already know what kind of coffee you like, or you're looking and you need some help, Trade makes it easy and convenient to discover new coffees. They'll send you ground coffee or whole beans, or however you make it your coffee at home. They will send it to you. It's absolutely perfect. It's a win-win in my book there. Here's how you got to do it. You're going to upgrade your coffee today with Trade Coffee and let them take the guesswork of finding your perfect cup. Right now, Trade is offering listeners a total of $30 off their subscription, plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/KCSN. That's drinktrade.com/KCSN for $30 off your subscription to the best coffees in the country. drinktrade.com/KCSN.
There are definitely things that Malik Willis has to clean up. That's not he's a project right now. There's a lot of areas in which he needs to develop. And
Right.
I understand you don't want him to make mistakes because that was the only way you saw the Texans beating you is if you gave them chances and you made mistakes. But if he has to start this week, he's going to have to do a lot more than just go 6 for 10 for 50 yards to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not just going to be able to hand it to Derrick Henry the entire game and win that game. The Chiefs are too good defensively, too explosive offensively to allow that to happen. So you have to let go of the reins a little bit and let him be him, because I think that's the only chance you have to win this game is if he gives you some special moments.
Right, and you just said it because they live and die with the run. We know they're a ground and pound team. They play great fundamental defense. They take on the personality of their coach, Mike Vrabel. They're gritty, they're scrappy, all those things. But at the end of the day, when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to come out and you have to score points. How do you do that? I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, I say the one area in which they've improved the most in from a defensive standpoint is against the run, right? And now that they're playing defense in which they're stopping the run, you can't rely on Derrick Henry and think that he's going to go out and it's going to be the Houston Texans game all over for 200 yards. Instead, you're going to have to at some point give the young guy Malik Willis the opportunity to go make plays with his arm, with his legs, and you're going to have to put points on the board, however that is. So you can't be scared that he's going to make a mistake. Instead, you got to be able to put the pedal to the metal and say, hey, look, kid, this might be your opportunity to go out and make some plays, and that's what you got to do in this game. Otherwise, they'll get blown out like they did in Buffalo.
Definitely. And I think, as far as the Chiefs offense is concerned, this Titans defense is very opportunistic. We've seen it over the last couple of weeks. They create a lot of turnovers, whether it's Kevin Byard, Christian Fulton, we've seen stepping up, making some big plays. So I think this is the type of game for the Chiefs too. You got to be careful of the turnovers. I think we've seen over the years with the Chiefs. I know it's true for most teams. When you don't turn the ball over, you're probably going to win. But for the Chiefs, when they don't turn the ball over, it's pretty much 100% of the time they're going to win the game. So I think that's the biggest thing this Chiefs offense has to account for. What else about this Titans defense do you think Chiefs fans need to know?
I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, and they also finally got Bud Dupree that's now playing again, and he's healthy back on the roster. So they've got a formidable front. There's no doubt about it. They can get after the quarterback, and they give you a multitude of looks in the secondary. They're not a good team that's just going to line up, show you what they're going to do. They're going to disguise. They're going to show you different blitz packages. They have a complex third down package as well. So they're going to challenge you at the quarterback position, make sure that you know what you're doing pre-snap and post-snap, but you can't believe your lying eyes, because what they're usually giving you pre-snap is not what it's going to be post-snap. So you have to verify that after the ball snap. The other part about this Kansas City offense is getting out to a fast start, because I feel like when you look at the Tennessee Titans, if they can get out to a fast start, the Tennessee Titans are not a team that's really built to play from behind. And so if you can get out to a fast start and put the pressure on that young quarterback to go out and, like we said, have to make plays and have to throw the ball, they're out of their comfort zone. And so that's a place that's probably a point of emphasis this week for Andy Reid and this offensive unit, is to get off to a fast start and, as you said, take care of the football.
Yeah, you mentioned it, not really being built to play from behind. That's why I'm a little surprised they didn't make a move to try to get a pass catcher at this trade deadline. John Robinson, his nickname's Trader John. Like he's all about making moves. And we saw Claypool, we saw a couple other receivers get moved. I was surprised that they didn't try to do that. They really never, they drafted Treylon Burks, who's still developing. But they never really replaced AJ Brown. They brought in Robert Woods as well, who's been, who's made some plays here and there, but I thought they might do something to bolster that receiving core.
I thought so too, and especially with Treylon Burks, who's had a history of injury since he's been there. He's dealing with hamstring injuries, and he hasn't really been out there and been as impactful as they were hoping early on. Hopefully he comes back and he's healthy and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the depth at the wide receiver position has been an issue for the Tennessee Titans. And so that's also why they've relied so heavily on that run game, because they just don't have a tremendous amount of depth, and they're not going to spread you out a lot of times. They're not going to be in 11 personnel. They're going to be in 2-back sets, 12 personnel, and try to run the ball down your throat, wear you out, win the time of possession, play solid defense, get the turnovers, like you said, opportunistic, and stick around until that fourth quarter where finally they just continue to hammer you and finish the game strong. Like we said, they've won a lot of close games this year, and it's because this unit is they're scrappy and they'll fight to the end. But at the end of the day, some more depth at that wide receiver position, you definitely think would have helped them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're both in agreement, Matt, that if Malik Willis is the one out there, that it's going to be really tough for the Titans to pull this one out. So let's operate under the assumption that Ryan Tannehill is going to play in this game. If he does, how do you see this one playing out? Give me your prediction, final score for this game.
Oh, okay. I mean, I really do like the Tennessee Titans defense. I think that they're a solid unit and they're a top 10 defense in this league. So I think it's going to be it's not going to be just a complete blowout, but I do like the Kansas City Chiefs 30 and the Tennessee Titans will go with 20.
Yeah, and I'm going to go I agree with you. We got a cat entering the shot here. Sorry about that, guys.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
But I'm with you. I think, and I think the Titans, as you said, I think they'll find some ways to slow down the game. But I think ultimately the Chiefs offense is going to be a little bit too much. And I'm not sure the Titans have enough offensively to keep up. So I'm going to go Chiefs 27, Titans 13.
Boom. I like it.
And there you have it, guys. Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Breakdown. We'll be back with you next week to make sense of all this and keep previewing the Chiefs schedule going forward and the matchups to come. So for Matt Cassel, I'm Matt Hamilton, and we'll see you next week.